I felt like I was dodging a major challenge these past few months by avoiding a mock toe waxing project because of that tricky stitching. But I finally ran out of roughout iron rangers to use as test subjects. It was quite some time ago when I first discovered a brown variation of waxed flesh while browsing the White's website. It was featured on the MP Sherman, and after receiving a flood of messages asking me to tackle a cinnamon finish, the timing just felt right. So today, we're using these Red Wing 8173s for my attempt to replicate Horween's iconic cinnamon waxed flesh. Since we are pushing the boundaries of this experiment, our toolkit is going to look a bit different from our standard setup. First on the list is acrylic varnish, though you can easily substitute any standard polycrylic. Next, we'll be incorporating some matte acrylic finisher from Angelus. The primary coloring agent we need is dark brown Venetian Leather Balm. We'll also need the neutral version of that same leather balm, as we're going to blend them to hit that specific hue. For application, grab 2 paintbrushes, a fine tip detail brush, and one with a slightly broader head. The ever-reliable roll of masking tape is an absolute necessity, and because we're custom mixing our own shades, you'll need a mixing vessel. Any disposable cup will work. As always, to prep the leather for this do-it-yourself waxing journey, ensure the boots are spotless by giving them a thorough brushing. And naturally, we need to protect the welt and sole by masking them off with tape, just like we usually do in every other video. I've always been skeptical about using a mock toe base for a waxing tutorial, primarily because I was certain that wax would inevitably ruin the contrast stitching. However, while I was digging for inspiration for my previous projects, I stumbled upon some forum discussions regarding how to protect stitching during a total leather re-dye. But because we aren't lightly brushing on liquid dye, we are instead vigorously rubbing in thick leather balm, I suspect that physical friction would just peel away any wax or latex. Instead, we're going to test out a layer of polycrylic, specifically chosen for its anti-yellowing properties, painted directly on the mock toe seam to see if it prevents the balm's pigments from staining the thread. That smaller detail brush is going to be your best friend when you're precision painting that acrylic onto the seams. I don't claim to be much of a fine artist, which is perfectly okay here, as the application doesn't have to be flawlessly neat. The wax in our balm will actually still grip the acrylic slightly, so if you happen to overpaint on the rough out, it won't ruin the look, and you'll definitely catch me making those same mistakes. Now technically, the majority of modern boots use synthetic threads like polyester or nylon, which are designed to resist dyes meant for organic leather. But in reality, heavy leather pigments can still easily tint or muddy those white threads. When I look at the Abilene roughout in this particular shot, it calls to mind the lineage of the most iconic service boots ever made, the World War II Marine Field Shoes, better known as boondockers. If you ever wondered where the slang for the outskirts of a town, the boonies, actually originated, it traces back to the Marine Corps fighting in my people's country during the Philippine-American War in the early 1900s. It was there when they first heard the Tagalog word for the word mountain, bundok, and adopted it into their own lexicon. By the time the US began staging Marines in the Philippines at the dawn of World War II, the term boondocker was officially cemented in military history. As the Pacific Theater evolved into a grueling series of island-hopping campaigns, water-repellent footwear became a desperate necessity for soldiers storming beachheads on remote atolls and isles. The Horween tannery was commissioned to find a solution, and since the Marine Field Shoe was already available in massive quantities, it became the natural foundation for this innovation. Debuting in February of 1941, the pattern was nearly identical to the smooth-out Garrison boots, whereas those Marine Field Shoes utilized the rough-out side of the hide. The Garrisons eventually proved impractical because of their leather soles and total lack of moisture resistance. By simply flipping the leather flesh side out and adding corded rubber outsoles, the legendary Marine Field Shoe was born. 10 months later, in December of 1941, the Pacific conflict erupted in full force, following the surprise bombing of Pearl Harbor. As Marines waded through surf and jungle only to end up completely waterlogged, a fast remedy was required to keep those boots and those men in the fight. Dubbin provided the answer, as it really has for centuries of footwear maintenance. This tradition of slathering fats and oils and waxes onto leather is a practice humanity has perfected over thousands of years. It's no different here, as the workers at Horween toiled day and night to wax hundreds of thousands of Marine Field Shoes. Interestingly, they were strictly referred to as shoes early in the war until the M1943 arrived with its distinctive double-buckle leather cuff. Since that high-top extension is missing on the shorter Marine Field Shoe, military regulations dictated that it is technically a shoe. What fascinates me about cinnamon wax flesh is how the character of the tones shifts so dramatically depending on the light. To replicate the complex finish, we're going to manipulate the color profile by blending neutral leather balm with dark brown leather balm. I'm starting with a balanced 1-to-1 ratio to test the waters, applying it slowly, one thin coat at a time. Keep in mind that a lighter base leather will be much more sensitive to dark brown pigments, while a darker starting point might require a lighter touch with a dark brown. I'm applying the balms with gloved hands as per my usual method, though the Horweens back in the 1940s utilized a far more fleshed out process, if you'll pardon my pun. Nick Horween has mentioned that while it might be anecdotal or even mythical, Word has it they use the rounded bottoms of glass Coke bottles to glaze the rough out surface before applying any dubbing. With every subsequent layer of wax, they would supposedly use that same glass bottle to polish and compress the finish. In the modern era, the tannery waxes hides while they're laid perfectly flat. Horween still performs a glazing step on the rough side to compact the fibers as tightly as possible. If you ever handle a brand new wax flesh boot, you'll notice the finish is remarkably smooth with a very refined sheen. That level of polish uniformity is now achieved by passing the hide under a massive heated steel roller. And for those of you who attended the 2025 boot camp in Chicago, you actually saw one of those impressive machines during the Horween factory tour. As the first layer of leather balm settles, it's clear the color is starting off quite light, and the pale base of the boot certainly emphasizes that, but we can work with it. I'm going to add a heavier dose of dark brown to the mixing cup, and you should feel free to calibrate your own mixture similarly. After each coat, make sure to use a hairdryer to liquefy and set the wax, letting it cool completely before you go back in for more. Just a quick heads up, as the trace oils begin to separate from the wax solids, they might deepen the leather's tone, so there's no need to rush, just watch how the color matures. While working through the second application, I began noticing the natural highs and lows where the wax sits thinner on the nap. It actually reminded me of the aesthetic of Creosote's rust-dyed boots, and I suspect I could eventually mimic that look by mixing neutral balm with specific brown and orange pigments. But returning to the task at hand, as you refine your custom cinnamon blend, I thought it would be helpful to show you exactly what pure dark brown Venetian leather balm looks like on its own. These are my real McCoy N1 service shoes, which have received about 8 coats of the dark brown over the last few months. Honestly, the result is remarkably similar to Horween's genuine dark brown wax flesh. It makes you wonder about the long-standing relationship between Venetian and Horween. Though Nick favoring boot black products recently, that connection perhaps is shifting. Regarding availability, many of you pointed out that ordering Venetian shoe cream or leather balm directly from Zoe's manufacturing has become impossible lately. Visiting those specific product pages now results in a frustrating 404 error. Perhaps the hobbyist community has finally cleared out their stock. So where can you source it now? Fortunately, Zoe's continues to supply major boot makers, so you can often find it through companies like Raincourt, Grantstone, or Viberg. And of course, there's always a reliable fallback of Amazon. This particular coat is nearly finished, and after a short drying period, I'll let the boots rest for a few hours to see how the pigment settles as the oils penetrate. If the shade isn't hitting the mark yet, consider layering on thin applications of pure dark brown balm until you reach that sweet spot. If you overdo it and the boot turns out too dark, there's really no way to undo it, but a deep dark brown is a fantastic look, regardless. We have returned after a 2-hour break, and since the color now matches the other boot, it's time to clean up the mock seam and test if our polycrylic shield actually protected the thread. You can use any blunt edge metal tool for this, but I found that a pair of tweezers works perfectly for firmly scraping away the excess wax. Pro tip, do not wait several days before attempting this cleanup. On the first boot I made that mistake of waiting overnight, which made the wax much harder to manage. Having only sat for a few hours, the wax in the second boot is far more pliable than my previous attempt, seen in the background. By the way, have you ever wondered how the Marine Field Shoe actually fared in the heat of battle? Did that heavy dubbin actually provide waterproofing against the brutal conditions of the Pacific Theater? Unfortunately, the real-world performance was quite lackluster. As much of this boot has become a holy grail in the heritage reproduction scene, during actual World War II service, the wax did very little to stop the water from eventually saturating the leather. To be honest, that is the inevitable fate of almost any all-leather construction. Even as a massive fan of Russell Moccasin and their multi-layered waterproof designs, I've learned that if the leather boot is submerged long enough, moisture will find a way in unless there's a synthetic barrier involved. And not to mention, if water spills over the collars of these low-statured boots, you're left with a pool of water trapped inside a shell that has been sealed shut with wax. That dubbin also drastically reduced breathability, which meant the soldiers' feet almost never had a chance to dry out. Within a year of their debut, reports surfaced that the Marine Field Shoe was fueling an epidemic of tropical immersion foot and rampant fungal infections. This condition caused the feet to swell so severely upon removing the boots that the soldiers literally couldn't get them back on. The swelling was the result of damaged blood vessels bursting with blood and leaking plasma into the surrounding tissue. Walking eventually became an agonizing impossibility. It didn't take the War Department long to pivot to the jungle boot, a design that finally conceded that water was simply going to get inside. By utilizing canvas uppers and dedicated drainage vents, the daily quality of life for the island-hopping Marines improved overnight. Now that the cleanup is finished, I'm moving on to a step that's a bit unconventional. As I noted in the start of the video, we're bringing in some matte acrylic finisher for an experiment that might just be the secret sauce for this pair. There is a specific phenomenon that catches Patina Thunderdome rookies off guard when they enter with a waxed flesh pair. After the first month of hard wear, they usually look at their boots and realize they look exactly like they did when they unboxed them. The reality is that genuine waxed flesh is incredibly resilient, far tougher than the name implies, and based on my past do-it-yourself attempts, leather balm alone doesn't quite match the wear resistance of the factory finish on these 2-year-old Trumans, for instance. So what's the missing ingredient? While I don't claim to have the exact industry answer, I suspect there's a structural binder used in the professional process, and I want to introduce one here to achieve 2 goals. First, I want the immediate structural integrity that Horween is known for, and second, I'm looking for a permanent sheen that doesn't require constant maintenance, similar to how I rarely brush these uplands, yet they stay lustrous. Using gloves, I'm spreading a thin layer of acrylic over the entire upper, though I'm being much more generous near the eye stays to combat the friction from the laces. So, does this theory actually hold up in the real world? So far the results are very promising. After a full week of wear, I'm seeing 0 wax shedding, even in high rub areas where the boots kick against each other. I suspect a long-term wear test will confirm that the acrylic provides superior durability while locking in that new boot shine. I'm generally curious if Horween employs a similar top coat or binder during their proprietary process. Perhaps one of you has some inside knowledge on that. We are officially at the finish line, and here is the result with both boots side by side. I really have to point out how hilariously misaligned these eyelets are from the left boot to the right. It's a miracle these weren't sold as factory seconds. Regardless, I'm a huge fan of this brown wax flesh aesthetic, and it's a far more functional choice for my lifestyle anyways. I no longer have to fret over water spots, and the deeper color palette is much easier to work into an outfit. There's definitely still some room to refine the technique for the mock toe seams, but it's a solid start, right? We'll definitely revisit down the road, but for now, thank you so much for watching.